What's a fact that has been actively disproven, yet people still spread it? The misconception that humans only use 10% of their brains, which has been debunked by neuroscience. In reality, various parts of the brain have specific functions, and most of the brain is active at different times. There is a word for when all the parts of your brain fire up at the same time. That word is seizure. So having a seizure is tantamount to unlocking the secrets of the universe? BRB, giving myself epilepsy. Seizures are no fun, you don't want them. Every time I have one I can't drive for 6 months. Makes life miserable. Strangers will give me free drugs on street corners and in Halloween candy. A small town I was living in during Halloween had several businesses gather downtown to do a safe trick or treat for the kiddos. You go to each booth where they advertise their business and give you candy. It's usually a good community event. A few years ago, there was one business that was a dispensary, but they were giving normal candy, obviously. The next day, some kid that supposedly went to the event got sick from edibles, and the parents accused that it came from that event and it was that dispensary. It came out later that the kid got into the parents' own stash they left out. No one is gonna give free drugs to kids, it's too expensive for that. Not at all surprised the parents didn't want to admit it. It's not all that uncommon for dogs to show up at emergency vets after getting into drugs. If this happens to you, tell them what the dog got into. You are just wasting time and money if you make the vet run a tox screen just to find out they got into your edibles. The employees aren't going to call the cops on you, they just want to help your pets. Cracking your knuckles causes arthritis. 1000 Oaks, California, doctor won the IG Nobel Medicine Prize for his first-hand research into arthritis in fingers. As a child and in adulthood, Donald Unger's mother, several aunts, and mother-in-law warned him that cracking his knuckles would lead to arthritis in his fingers. To test that theory, he cracked the knuckles of his left hand, but not the right hand, every day for more than 60 years. That's so petty, I love it. I'm willing to bet that the history of science prompted petty motivations is underreported. Scientists don't know how bees fly. This one drives me crazy. Some guy said, by my math, bees shouldn't be able to fly, and didn't think that just maybe his math was off. No, it's that a very commonly observed thing somehow breaks the laws of physics. It's even better. He did it using the math for fixed-wing airplanes. More specifically, he only measured the wings as producing force on the down flaps, when bees produce lift on both down and up flaps because of the shape amongst a few other variables. It made sense at the time before digital cameras allowed us to see the full motion of a bee's wing flap from numerous angles. Does not make sense in a modern setting one bit. Gum stays in your intestines for 7 years if you swallow it. Me stuffing myself with gum and trying to fart out a bubble. My disappointment is immeasurable and my day is ruined. My younger brother did this. When he was a kid, he loved gum so much that he would always be chewing. Specifically, he would chew that Hubba Bubba tape stuff. One day, he swallowed like a whole roll of it, and his shit was bright pink and sticky when it came out the other side. I have no idea why he swallowed it, but he never did it again, lol. As a dietitian, it drives me nuts when people say that iceberg lettuce is devoid of nutrition. A typical serving of 100 grams provides 17% of your daily vitamin A and 20% of your vitamin K requirements, all for just 14 calories. Plus, it's a good source of potassium, manganese, and fiber. So, it's far from being just water. There's definitely nutritional value. People say the same thing about taters, they are the best thing ever, you can boil 'em. Mash 'em, stick 'em in a stew. Yep. And this is why potatoes and even pizza have been popular on school food menus in the past. They're full of nutrition, yes, pizza too, and with limited school budgets, it's easy to meet the dietary guidelines. People forget how much potassium is in potatoes if you don't overcook them, a nutrient Americans are severely lacking. That you can catch a cold from being outside in the cold. You become more susceptible, but the actual cold is a virus you can only catch from other people. One of the most interesting things I learned during COVID is that those cold and flu and rona-viruses are surrounded by a protective fatty layer. It's dense and durable in the cold, but in the heat it melts a bit and gets fragile. So viruses spread more easily when it's cold out, because they last longer outside before disintegrating. It's still true that you don't catch a cold from being cold, but the combination of tougher viruses and people breathing all over each other indoors makes viral infections more likely in winter. People have really stupid misconceptions when it comes to cold anyway. I once worked as a tech in a butchery where probably 75% of the inside was cooled down to 5°C or lower. And yet it was a constant discussion in the break room if setting the AC to lower than 20 would make you sick. Motherfuckers, we work on the inside of a fridge. Carrots improve your night vision. It was a fact promoted by the Allies during WW2 to hide their invention of radar. All those British pilots are downing German bombers at night because they eat so many carrots. Totally not because we have a device that lets us see them day or night from dozens of miles away. My favorite incorrect fact of all. I've always had great night vision, and as a kid I thought it was because I did eat carrots. Imagine my surprise when I found out it's not carrots that give me great vision, it's radar. The British also had a lot of carrots and wanted to encourage people to eat them during the rationing. The best thing about it though, is that carrots do actually help with eyesight. They are rich in beta-carotene, pronounced beta-carotene, which helps your eyes adjust to the dark. 24 hours for a missing persons report. Can't tell you how many people call 911 after their child/partner has been missing for that long. When Samantha Josephson was kidnapped and killed after mistaking a stranger's car for her Uber, her friends did not immediately report her missing because they thought they had to wait 24 hours after her disappearance. Till her murder was one of the reasons we use the "who are you here for" thing. RIP. That people used to only live to age 30 in the past. I can't believe how often people still mention this misconception. Average mortality rate is not equal to individual life expectancy. When people think average life expectancy, they'll intuitively think of it as, what's the most common age to die? That would be the mode, but the stats are never about that. This one drives me nuts. Yes, people tended to die very young because you could die from a small scratch getting infected, but you could also live to be in your 70s if you were lucky. Vaccines cause autism. Or a host of other things about vaccines that boil down to asserting you are at greater risk from a vaccine than you are from the thing it's protecting you from. Autistic folks are overrepresented in research fields. So technically, autism causes vaccines. If anyone here still questions vaccines, go talk to old people about it. A lot of them saw people they knew die or have lifelong issues because there were no vaccines. The worst part is that we nearly had some of these diseases eradicated until the internet ruined it. People love to talk about how pandas are incapable of surviving, and so evolutionarily incompetent that they need to be goaded into even reproducing. In fact, pandas are very highly specialized and adapted to an ecological niche that was never under threat until human intervention. They're grazers in bamboo forests, which used to be an enormous biome, and their behavioral issues in captivity are just a result of not having access to even a reasonable approximation of that biome. They evolved to be picky about food because they evolved surrounded on all sides by food and adapted to extract the best food efficiently, instead of clear-cutting their environment to get worse food. They evolved to patrol enormous territories because they evolved surrounded by endless usable habitat in all directions. It's not their fault that animals act weird when transplanted from their homes. That if you touch a baby animal for any reason, their parents will abandon them because they now smell like you. This is a good one that should stay in circulation. It was very likely invented by human parents to prevent their human children from trying to cuddle cute baby animals and getting attacked by angry animal parents. Also, seeing that clip of young adults trying to pet an adult bear while it was eating, we need to invent more "leave animals alone" myths for everyone's protection. Well, I take that back. I want to protect the animals from the consequences of human stupidity. They shouldn't be euthanized for following their completely reasonable instincts after being harassed by attention whores.